Have you ever found yourself lost in your thoughts, unable to escape the endless cycle of overthinking? You analyze past mistakes, worry about the uncertain future, and dissect every possible outcome, hoping to find the perfect solution. But instead of clarity, all you get is exhaustion and anxiety. Your mind feels like a storm, waves of thoughts crashing against each other. Never resting, never quiet. You're not alone. Overthinking is a silent thief. It robs you of the present moment, filling your mind with worries that may never come true. It convinces you that if you just think a little harder, if you just replay that conversation one more time, you'll find the answer, the closure, the control you crave. But the truth is, overthinking is not solving anything, it's only creating suffering. There was once a man who had everything: wealth, a loving family, and a successful career. By all measures, he should have been happy. Yet, despite all his achievements, his mind was never at peace. Every night, he lay awake, replaying conversations, regretting past decisions, and worrying about things that hadn't even happened. He couldn't escape the what-ifs that haunted his mind. What if I had made a different decision? What if something goes wrong tomorrow? What if I lose everything? These thoughts consumed him. No matter how much success he achieved, he never felt secure. His mind was always preparing for the worst. One day, after another sleepless night, he realized something. He was tired. Tired of carrying the weight of endless worries. Tired of chasing control over things he could never truly predict. And so, he made a bold decision. He left everything behind: his job, his home, his routines, and traveled to a remote Buddhist monastery, deep in the mountains. He wasn't looking for wealth, fame, or success anymore. He was searching for something far more valuable: peace. When he arrived at the monastery, he expected the monks to give him immediate answers, some magical wisdom that would quiet his restless mind. But instead, he was greeted with silence. No one rushed to explain the meaning of life to him. No one told him what to do. Instead, the monks simply invited him to sit, breathe, and observe. Among them was a wise monk who had once struggled with overthinking himself. He understood the suffering that came from a mind that never rests. But he also knew that peace was possible. The monk did not offer instant solutions. Instead, he shared 6 powerful Buddhist teachings that had changed his own life, teachings that could free the mind from its endless cycle of worry, regret, and fear. And today, I want to share those same lessons with you. If you've ever felt trapped in your thoughts, unable to find peace, then this video is for you. These teachings have helped countless people break free from overthinking, and they might just change your life too. Stay with me until the end, and I'll tell you how this man's journey unfolded, what he discovered, and how he finally found the peace he had been searching for. Lesson 1. The past is gone. The future is unwritten, live in the present. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the landscape, the monk took the man to a quiet river. The air was crisp, carrying the faint scent of earth and water. The gentle murmur of the river filled the silence between them. They sat side by side on the riverbank, watching the water glide effortlessly over smooth stones. Neither of them spoke for a long time. Then, breaking the silence, the monk gestured toward the flowing stream and said, "This river is like time. The past is the water that has already flowed away. The future is the water that has yet to come. But you, my friend, are standing in the present, right where the water touches your feet." The man gazed at the river, watching how each ripple moved forward, never turning back. It was in that moment, as he sat there in stillness, that he felt something he hadn't experienced in years: peace. For so long, his mind had been trapped, oscillating between the regrets of the past and the anxieties of the future. He had replayed old conversations, relived past mistakes, and longed for moments that no longer existed. At the same time, he had spent endless hours fearing an uncertain future, imagining worst-case scenarios. stressing over things beyond his control. But in that moment, staring at the river, he saw the truth. The past no longer existed. The future had not yet arrived. And the only thing that was real was the present. Buddha once said, "Do not dwell in the past. Do not dream of the future. Concentrate the mind on the present moment." The monk turned to the man and asked, "When was the last time you truly lived in the present?" The man hesitated. He thought of the countless times he had been physically present but mentally elsewhere. He had sat at family dinners while his mind wandered to unfinished work. He had been on vacations but spent more time thinking about emails than enjoying the scenery. Even in moments of happiness, his mind had been busy analyzing, worrying, or strategizing for the future. The monk smiled knowingly. Most people are like this. They walk through life as if they are sleepwalking, always chasing something that is not here. Always regretting something that has already passed. But life is happening now, in this very moment. The man felt a deep sense of recognition. How many beautiful moments had he missed because he was stuck in his head? How many simple joys had he overlooked because he was too busy living in a different time, either the past or the future? The monk then picked up a small stone and tossed it into the river. It created a ripple that spread outward before fading into stillness. "Your thoughts are like this ripple," he said. "They disturb the surface of your mind. But if you learn to simply observe, without attachment, the waters of your mind will settle." The man took a deep breath, feeling the air fill his lungs, noticing the warmth of the setting sun on his skin. For the first time in years, he allowed himself to be fully present, and in that presence, he found clarity. How to apply this teaching to your life? How often do we waste our days regretting what has already happened or fearing what has yet to come? When we focus on the past, we drown in guilt and longing. When we fixate on the future, we become paralyzed by fear and uncertainty. But in truth, life is only ever happening now. The next time you find yourself lost in worry or regret, pause and ask yourself, "Am I here, now?" If your mind is stuck in the past or future, gently bring yourself back to the present. Try this simple practice. 1. Take a deep breath. Feel the air moving in and out of your lungs. 2. Look around. Notice the sights, sounds, and sensations around you. 3. Acknowledge your thoughts, but don't engage with them. Let them pass like clouds in the sky. Just like the river, time keeps moving. We cannot swim backward, nor can we reach forward to touch water that has yet to arrive. All we have is the moment where our feet touch the ground, the present. And when we embrace it fully, we discover something incredible. Peace is not something we need to chase. It has always been here, waiting for us to notice it. Lesson 2. Thoughts are like clouds, let them pass. One afternoon, as the man sat with the monk in the monastery's quiet courtyard, a gentle breeze stirred the air. Above them, the sky was vast, endless, and painted with drifting clouds. The monk gazed upward and, after a moment, pointed toward the sky. "What do you see?" he asked. The man followed his gaze. "Clouds," he said simply. The monk nodded. "Do you try to grab them?" The man chuckled. "Of course not, that would be impossible." The monk turned to him with a wise smile. "Then why do you chase every thought in your mind?" The words hit the man like a sudden gust of wind. He had never considered it before. Every day, his mind was filled with worries, regrets, and endless analysis. But instead of letting those thoughts come and go, he clung to them. He believed them, analyzed them, argued with them, and let them control his emotions. For years, his mind had been like a stormy sky, dark clouds swirling, blocking out the sun. He realized that he had been holding on to these thoughts as if they were permanent, as if they defined him. But just like clouds, thoughts are impermanent. They form, they drift, and they disappear. The nature of thoughts. Buddhism teaches that thoughts are fleeting. They arise due to various causes, our past experiences, fears, desires, and emotions, but they are not solid, nor do they define who we are. The monk picked up a stick and drew a line in the dirt. "Look at this line," he said, "now watch." With a simple movement, he wiped it away. The ground was smooth again. This is how thoughts work. They appear in your mind, but you don't have to hold on to them. If you do nothing, they will fade on their own. The man thought about how often he had fought with his own thoughts, trying to push them away, trying to replace them, trying to control them, but in doing so, he had only given them more power. "What should I do when a thought comes?" the man asked. The monk smiled. "Observe it, do not chase it, do not fight it, simply watch it arise and let it pass." A simple practice to let thoughts go. The monk guided the man in a short meditation. "Close your eyes," he said. "Imagine you are sitting beside a river. Watch as leaves float downstream. Each leaf represents a thought. Some are pleasant, some are troubling, but you do not reach for them. You do not cling to them. You simply observe as they pass." The man took a deep breath and followed the instructions. At first, his mind was restless. Thoughts about work, past mistakes, and future worries surfaced one after another. But as he continued to observe, he noticed something. The thoughts came and went on their own. They had no power unless he held onto them. The monk spoke softly. "Your thoughts are like these leaves, like clouds in the sky. They are not permanent, and they do not control you, unless you let them." How to apply this teaching to your life? So many of us become trapped in our thoughts, believing that every worry and fear must be solved, every negative thought must be counted. But in reality, thoughts are just passing events in the mind. The next time you find yourself caught in overthinking, try this. 1. Pause and observe. Notice what thoughts are arising without engaging with them. 2. Imagine them as clouds drifting by or leaves floating down a river. Watch them, but do not grab them. 3. Remind yourself, this thought is not permanent. It will pass. Just like clouds dissolve into the sky and leaves continue floating downstream. Your thoughts, too, will fade, if you let them. At that moment, the man felt a deep sense of relief. He had spent years fighting his thoughts, trying to control them, but now, he understood, he didn't need to control them, he only needed to let them go. Lesson 3. Overthinking creates suffering. Let go of what you can't control. There is an old Buddhist story about a man who carried a heavy sack of rocks everywhere he went. Day after day, he struggled under its weight, growing more exhausted with each passing step. One day, he met a monk on the road. Seeing the man's hunched back and weary face, the monk asked, "Why do you carry that burden?" The man sighed, "Because I have to." The monk smiled gently and said, "No, you don't. Put it down." The man was stunned. He had never considered that possibility. He had carried the sack for so long that he had come to believe it was a part of him, something he had no choice but to bear. And yet, the monk's words were simple, clear, and profound: put it down. Overthinking is a burden we choose to carry. The sack of rocks in this story represents the unnecessary worries we carry in our minds. Each rock symbolizes a different concern. Regrets about the past, mistakes we cannot undo, words we wish we had said differently. Fear of the future: what if things go wrong? What if I fail? What if I lose what I have? A desire for control, the endless need to plan, to predict, to fix everything before it even happens. And yet, no matter how much we analyze, stress, or prepare, there are things in life that we simply cannot control. Buddha once said, "Pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional." We cannot avoid life's challenges. Pain, whether physical, emotional, or circumstantial, is part of the human experience. But suffering is what happens when we refuse to let go of things beyond our control. The illusion of control. The monk led the man to a nearby tree and pointed at the leaves. "Can you control the wind?" he asked. The man shook his head. "No." "Can you stop the river from flowing?" "No." "Then why do you believe you can control everything in your life?" The man stood in silence. We often convince ourselves that if we think long enough, if we plan every detail, we can control the outcome of every situation. But this is an illusion. No amount of overthinking can stop the unexpected from happening. No amount of worry can undo the past. The only thing we can control is how we respond. How to let go of what you can't control. Next time you catch yourself obsessing over something, pause and ask yourself, "Can I control this?" If the answer is yes, right pointing arrow, take action. If there is something you can do to improve the situation, do it. If the answer is no, right pointing arrow, let it go. Accept that some things are beyond your influence, and choose peace instead of stress. Try this simple exercise. 1. Write down your worries. List everything that is causing you stress. 2. Separate them into 2 categories. O things you can control. O things you cannot control. 3. For the things you can control, create a plan. Take one small step toward a solution. 4. For the things you cannot control, practice letting go. Imagine placing them in a box, sealing it shut, and setting it aside. Freedom comes from surrender. After listening to the monk, the man looked down at his sack of rocks. For the first time, he realized he didn't need to carry it anymore. He slowly set it down, feeling the weight lift from his shoulders. And in that moment, he felt something he hadn't felt in years. Relief, lightness, peace. So the next time you feel overwhelmed by overthinking, remember, you don't have to carry every burden. Put it down. Lesson 4. Mindfulness anchors you in the present. The man had spent years trapped in his thoughts. His mind was like a stormy ocean. Waves crashing against each other, never settling. Every attempt to quiet it only seemed to make it louder. He had tried distracting himself, reasoning with his thoughts, and even forcing himself to think positive. But nothing worked. One evening, as the sky darkened and the lanterns flickered inside the monastery, the monk invited him to sit on a small wooden platform overlooking a tranquil garden. The air was cool, carrying the scent of fresh earth and blooming jasmine. The monk sat beside him in silence, his presence calm, unwavering. Then, he spoke. "Close your eyes," the monk said gently. The man hesitated but obeyed. "Take a slow breath in." The man inhaled deeply, filling his lungs. "Hold it." For a brief moment, everything felt still. "Now, exhale." As the air escaped his body, he felt something unexpected: relief. A small gap, a sliver of space between him and his restless thoughts. The monk guided him again. Another breath. In, hold, out. At first, his mind resisted. It darted between memories of the past and worries about the future. His thoughts raced. Am I doing this right? When will I feel peace? What if this doesn't work? But as he continued, something shifted. He noticed the feeling of air moving through his nostrils, the gentle rise and fall of his chest. He became aware of the warmth of his hands resting on his lap, the sensation of the wooden floor beneath him. His thoughts were still there, but they no longer felt so overwhelming. For the first time in a long time, he was simply here. Mindfulness is the antidote to overthinking. The monk smiled as he noticed the subtle change in the man's posture. His shoulders had relaxed. His face had softened. "Do you see?" the monk said. "Your mind is like a lake. When the waters are stirred, they become cloudy, but if you allow them to settle, clarity returns." The man nodded. He had spent so long fighting his thoughts, trying to silence them, that he had never considered another approach, to simply observe, to allow them to come and go, without getting caught in their current. Buddha once said, "When the mind is calm, the breath is calm, and when the breath is calm, the mind follows." Mindfulness is not about stopping thoughts. It is about anchoring yourself in the present moment so that thoughts lose their power over you. And the simplest way to do that, return to your breath. A simple practice to return to the present. Try this now. 1. Close your eyes. 2. Take a deep breath in through your nose. Feel the cool air entering your lungs. 3. Hold for a moment, notice the stillness. 4. Exhale slowly, feel the tension leaving your body. That moment of awareness, that's presence. Whenever you feel overwhelmed, whenever your thoughts become too heavy, come back to your breath. It will always be there, steady, constant, guiding you home to the present. And in that presence, you will find the peace that was never truly lost, only forgotten. Lesson 5. Simplicity is freedom. During his stay at the monastery, the man observed something remarkable. The monks lived with so little: simple robes, a small mat to sleep on, a single bowl for meals. No possessions cluttered their space. No distractions pulled him away from the present moment. And yet, they radiated a kind of joy he had never seen before. He had spent his life chasing success, accumulating wealth, and filling his days with endless activities. He believed that more would bring happiness, more money, more achievements, more possessions. But watching the monks, he realized something profound. They had almost nothing, yet they seemed to have everything. One afternoon, he asked the monk, "How is it that you own so little, yet you are happier than people who have everything?" The monk smiled, "Because we do not own little. We own exactly what we need, and nothing more." He continued, "The more you carry, the heavier your burden. The more you accumulate, the more you have to protect, maintain, and worry about. But when you simplify, life becomes lighter." The illusion of more. A Zen master once said, "The simpler the life, the more profound the meaning." Yet in the modern world, simplicity feels almost impossible. We are bombarded by endless choices: what to buy, what to watch, what to achieve next. Notifications, messages, and social media steal our attention. The pressure to keep up, to do more, to be more, fuels our overthinking. But what if, instead of chasing more, we focused on less? Less clutter. A clear space creates a clear mind. Less noise. Silence is not empty, it is full of peace. Less attachment. The more we cling, the more we suffer. The freedom of letting go. The monk invited the man to help clean one of the meditation halls. As they worked, the monk handed him a box filled with old, dusty objects and asked, "Do you need these?" The man hesitated, "Not really." The monk nodded, "Then why are they still here?" That evening, the man reflected on how much mental and emotional clutter he carried: old grudges, unnecessary worries, toxic relationships, and the constant need for validation. He realized that true simplicity wasn't just about decluttering physical space, it was about decluttering the mind. A simple practice for a lighter life. Take a moment to reflect. What are you holding onto that no longer serves you? 1. Declutter your physical space. Let go of things you no longer need. 2. Declutter your mental space. Release old regrets, fears, and toxic thoughts. 3. Declutter your commitments. Say no to things that drain you and yes to things that bring peace. Simplicity is not about deprivation, it is about clarity. And in that clarity, you will find something you may have been searching for all along: freedom. Lesson 6. Trust in impermanence. Nothing lasts forever. One morning, as the soft golden light of dawn filled the monastery, The monk invited the man to sit with him for tea. He handed him a beautifully crafted ceramic cup. It was delicate, its glaze reflecting the warm sunlight. As the man admired its beauty, the monk said, "This cup is already broken." The man looked at the cup in his hands, confused, "But it's perfectly fine." The monk nodded, "Yes, but one day, it will fall and shatter. If I understand this now, I will not be attached. I will enjoy it fully while it lasts. And when it breaks, I will let it go." The man sat in silence, absorbing the monk's words. He realized that this was not just about a cup, it was about everything. Impermanence is the nature of life. Everything in life is impermanent. Our joys, our sorrows, our relationships, our successes, our failures, none of it lasts forever. Yet, we resist this truth. We cling to what we love, fearing its loss. We hold on to pain, afraid of change. We chase permanence in a world where nothing is permanent. Buddha once said, "All conditioned things are impermanent. Strive on with diligence." Yet, instead of embracing this truth, we fight against it. We try to control what is uncontrollable. We fear the end of good things and dwell on bad things as if they will last forever. But what if, instead of fearing impermanence, we accepted it? The freedom in letting go. The monk placed his cup gently on the wooden table. When you understand that everything is temporary, you begin to live differently. The man thought about his own life, the people he had lost, the moments that had slipped through his fingers, the fear of things changing. He had spent so much time trying to hold on to things, to control them, to keep them from fading, but in doing so, he had only created suffering. He looked at the cup again, and for the first time, he saw it not as something to cling to, but as something to appreciate while it was here. This was the lesson. Impermanence is not something to fear. It is what makes life precious. How to apply this teaching to your life? Instead of resisting change, embrace it. Instead of fearing loss, appreciate what you have while it's here. Try this simple practice. 1. Acknowledge impermanence. The next time you hold something dear, a person, a moment, a feeling, remind yourself that it is temporary. 2. Practice gratitude. Because nothing lasts forever, every moment is a gift. Savor it. 3. Let go of unnecessary suffering. If you are holding on to something painful, ask yourself, am I clinging to something that has already passed? If so, release it. True peace comes from acceptance. As the monk poured more tea, the man smiled. He understood now. Life was like the cup. It was meant to be enjoyed while it lasted, not feared for its eventual end. Because when we accept that nothing lasts forever, we stop clinging to what we cannot keep and fearing what is inevitable. And in that acceptance, we finally find peace. After months of living in the monastery, the man finally returned home, but something was different. The city was the same. His house, his job, his responsibilities, none of them had changed. Yet, he had. The worries that once consumed him no longer held the same power. The thoughts that had once chained him, regrets about the past, anxieties about the future, still arose. But now, he knew how to let them pass. He had learned to breathe, to be present, to trust in impermanence. Did his problems disappear? No, but his suffering did. That was the real transformation. Before, he had believed that peace was something he had to chase, something that would come only when everything in his life was perfect. But now, he understood, peace was never something to be found outside. It was something cultivated within. It wasn't about changing the world around him. It was about changing how he saw it. He no longer fought with his thoughts. He simply observed them. He no longer clung to what he could not control. He let go. He no longer feared change. He embraced it. And in that surrender, he found the peace that had always been waiting for him. Your journey begins now. His story is not unique. It is the story of all of us, the story of a mind that longs for peace but is trapped in its own endless thinking. But if he could change, so can you. You don't have to become a monk or leave behind your life. The lessons he learned are available to you right now. You can learn to be present. You can let go of what you cannot control. You can simplify your life and free your mind. You can trust in impermanence and embrace the ever-changing flow of life. It all starts with a single breath. So, take one now. Inhale, hold, exhale. Feel the stillness. That is the peace you've been searching for, and it has been with you all along. If these teachings resonated with you, don't keep them to yourself. Someone else out there might need this wisdom too. Like this video, subscribe for more insights, and let's continue this journey toward mindfulness together. And remember, you don't have to overthink your way to peace. You just have to be here, now.